the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft.
Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us as we return to bring you all things football all the time. I am your host, Brad.
I'm your co-host, Kyle.
And hey, look, we had a rough 2024, but we are back. I'm sure we'll address that at some point, but let's just get straight into it, Kyle. We're going to give a preview tonight of Super Bowl 59. Now, we already know this is a rematch of Super Bowl 57. We're not going to waste time on that. We're just going to tell you the stuff that you want to know and the stuff that we think heading up to 59. Kyle, come on, man. This is your Eagles. What's in it for you, for your Eagles to come away with this win? What's going on?
Well, revenge, first of all, defeating their demons. Now, we saw the Eagles do it in 2017 against the Patriots, revenging their loss from 2004. So this could be some revenge for them from 2 years ago, like we said. Most of those players are back. Obviously, you do have some new additions, such as Saquon. I mean, I could spend about 30 minutes just on Saquon alone. I won't, but I could. Sack Bond, the potential defensive player of the year, coming from New Orleans, who was an outside linebacker, and Vic Fangio, another newcomer, taking him and molding him into a middle linebacker. New draft additions such as Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, the Georgia boys. Sorry, but listen, they're killing it. And then obviously you got your Alabama boys on the offensive side of the ball still doing work with Landon Dickerson, Devonta Smith. So, a few newcomers here and there. But really this team at its core is just a masterful job done by Howie Roseman assembling this roster, trading for A.J. Brown years ago. He's still killing it. Offensive line is still incredible. I mean, they get Mekhi Becton, who we loved, and we talked about coming out of the draft a few years ago and did absolutely nothing with the Jets, as most players do. They do absolutely nothing with the Jets, and then they go elsewhere and thrive. So, a mix of old and new coordinators, new players, but at its core, it's a Howie Roseman roster, and then just kind of coaxed into a formidable team by Nick Sirianni. So
sure. And you know what? I have to give a lot of credit to Howie Roseman and Sirianni. If you remember last year, Sirianni was on the hot seat.
I wanted him gone.
He needs to be gone. He sucks. I'm done with him. And even Roseman a couple of seasons ago, get rid of him. He doesn't know how to draft. And I'll tell you what, the thing that really gets me here with the Eagles is this core is almost the exact same core that faced the Chiefs in 57. The nice thing is Howie said, okay, what did we do wrong here? The secondary was really porous against the Chiefs last time. I read this today. One of his things is, okay, let's get somebody and then let's get a backup just in case that guy doesn't work. So what does he do? He goes to get Quinyon Mitchell. Great pick. We both loved that pick for the Eagles. We didn't think he'd be there for the Eagles pick. Great steal. And then he goes and supplants that with Cooper DeJean, who we also said, whoa, how did he fall into the Eagles' laps? So Roseman is playing – we're playing checkers, Kyle. Roseman is playing chess. And I'm really – I'm not an Eagles fan, you know this, but I'm thrilled to see the chance of this young squad that they've built years and years and years. The Eagles are the new 76ers. This is the real trust the process for the city of Philadelphia. And I'm really thrilled that they get this opportunity again. But yeah, I'm with you. Saquon doesn't have a ring. Hurts doesn't have a ring. Sirianni doesn't have a ring. Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. There's so many people in the Eagles that I want to see them have a ring before they hang it up.
Yeah, and I think
go ahead
with how incredibly talented they are and how the last 3 years really just how much they've improved and how otherworldly their stats are. I mean, it's it'd be kind of crazy to say at the end of the line none of these guys would get a ring. And they have been so close. It's not like they've been, good on paper and they've choked. I mean, they're right there. So I would say, in summation, it's the big swings that have gotten the Eagles to where they are. Like I mentioned, the A.J. Brown, that was a big swing. I mean, not that much of a risk for A.J. Brown, obviously, but taking a big swing, getting rid of Carson Wentz, getting those first-round picks, trading with the Saints, getting another first-round pick, and trading that first for A.J. Summation. And then the other big swing, Jalen Carter. I mean, that was a big swing for how,
It was.
personally he was coming out of Georgia.
Uh-huh.
Nolan Smith couldn't stay healthy at Georgia. Athletic freak, but he was a big swing. Who knows if he would have developed. Nakobe Dean, who, yes, injured, but incredible year this year. I mean, he was dropping like a fly, and they got him in the 3rd round, taking a big swing on 34-year-old Darius Slay, and he's been great this year. Bringing back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who hated the Eagles franchise last year. And then, getting Mekhi Becton, Zach Bond. There's been some misses, no doubt. Like Jahan Dotson probably wasn't worth a 3rd-round pick. They don't throw to him at all. Guys like that. Devin White, who they signed this offseason, got cut right away.
Yep.
James Bradbury is on the roster, surprisingly, but not even healthy. Or he is healthy, but they just...
He's the new water boy.
So, there's been some swings and some misses, but that's how he does. He swings big. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this year it does. On the other hand, the Chiefs, who we can move to now...
Yeah, go ahead.
They're not really full of big swings. They're just consistent. That's who they are. It all starts with Andy Reid, Mahomes, but it also starts with Steve Spagnuolo, who just year after year finds these guys in the draft, and they just work. The chemistry works. They're in sync. They find diamonds in the rough, and they just plug and play guys. It's pretty incredible how consistent they are.
And truthfully, their 2022 draft set them up for success because you're right, their core is consistent. They really are. But I think without that 2022 draft, they wouldn't be here because we've got Karlaftis. We've got Trent McDuffie, 2 guys that we liked a lot. They've got Isaiah Pacheco for a steal, like guys that are making big impacts on their roster game by game. And they managed to do all that in one draft. That's very rare that you get that many guys from one draft that contribute at that high of a level. Because really, they're only 3-year veterans at this point. Although I do have to give a slight shout out. You and I were so high on Karlaftis. We couldn't believe he fell that far to the Chiefs, but it worked out for him. Sometimes those systems just benefit certain players. And I'm with you. They have almost a similar approach of playing, chess because they were very specific about how they wanted to address the stuff they did. And yeah, they took some swings, but those swings are paying off. And they are just as much primed for success in the future as the Eagles are because they're both very young teams, with the exception of, a couple guys. But they're very young teams. The quarterbacks are veterans. They've been around for a long time. They're not, it's not a first-year guy to come out there and struggle. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, the thing that they have at stake, everybody knows this. They have a chance to do the first three-peat in NFL history. We've never seen it. We've seen plenty of teams get there 3 times. Most people are going to think the Bills more than anything else because they've been 3 times, and that's about it. And then, we really have to start talking about it. And I've heard it in a lot of circles, but it feels ridiculous. Mahomes is in contention to beat out Brady for the GOAT of football. And I never thought we'd get to a point where we'd say somebody's accolades and the Super Bowl wins and just how he plays is going to surpass Brady. But here we are. What do you think he deserves that yet? Do you think he needs to win this one to cement that? What are your thoughts on the Chiefs' legacy that's at stake here?
Just watching Brady for 20 years or whatever, it was painfully consistent. It was painfully, and this guy never goes away. And you are getting that same effect with Mahomes. It even seems like when I don't think the Chiefs are that great, somehow they still win, partly because of their defense, partly because of him. But I would argue that was kind of like the Patriots. Bill Belichick built a great defense, and then Brady just, picked up the pieces, did the rest. Now, I think that Mahomes has benefited from a lot more than Brady ever did. I mean, Brady had Randy Moss for a couple years, right? Deion Branch maybe, but like, man, his best weapons were, these little 5'10" white guys. Like Mahomes has definitely been.
Amendola.
Yes, Mahomes definitely has been the benefit of Andy Reid, and also the benefit of them, getting guys like a Tyreek Hill earlier in Mahomes' career, Travis Kelce. But now you're starting to see them, supplement that with draft picks who have and haven't worked out. Like Sky Moore was a bust. Rashee Rice injured. Also, who knows about him personally? On that side of things. And then Xavier Worthy, who right now is a one-trick pony, but a very good one-trick pony. So like that's going to be the key here is longevity. And these 3 years, obviously, if they get this ring, that'll be up with the best of all time. And you can definitely talk about him along the same lines as a Brady, but longevity wise, we'll see. Andy Reid might be gone soon. Kelsey's definitely gone soon. He's not the same. I think it's clear he's not the same player. He's annoying like Brady. I'll give him that. He never goes away.
Yeah.
He's always being talked about. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Athletically, he's gifted. His arm is gifted. That's the thing too. Is like we've talked about so much with Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, Aaron Rodgers recently, and how freaks these guys are, how athletic they are, different arm angles, different their throw powers. It's crazy, but Brady never really had elite physical gifts. He was just a machine, a robot, if you will. So, and Mahomes is starting to become like that too. But then also he does have some good physical gifts. So he definitely is the go-to football right now. I don't think anyone can deny that.
No.
But it is still annoying. So
if Josh Allen could ever get past the Chiefs, this would be such a different conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know what's at stake for both teams. Kyle, what are our biggest matchups? What should people be watching in this game?
Well, I would say number one is the Eagles D-line versus the Chiefs offensive line. And that's an easy thing to say, but if you think about it, 2 years ago when they played, that was the biggest matchup that people talked about. And it was kind of negated because of, one, the Chiefs did get the ball out quick, but also that field was horrendous. I mean, Chiefs D-line and Eagles D-line had no shot of touching the quarterback. They couldn't get their feet planted in the ground. So field's going to be different. I think that's going to have a little bit of effect. But also, like that's where it starts. And the Chiefs have struggled at times with protecting Mahomes. We've got Joe Thuney, who's playing kind of out of position.
Yep.
Trey Smith is still very good. Cree Humphrey is still very good. Outside of those guys, it's a little shaky. So you kind of wonder if that'll come into play. And then I think I also had Vic Fangio versus Andy Reid, and that was a big part of the last Super Bowl. Is that our defensive coordinator Gannon got completely outcoached, obliterated by Andy Reid. I mean, they ran the same damn play like 3 times, and they kind of touched it. It's Vic Fangio. I don't think is going to let that happen. That dude is all about football all the time, and he has taken a very young defense and made them statistically the best defense in the NFL this year. And while I think, Mahomes has things to say about that, and I'm sure he'll put up his points, I don't think it'll be as easy, but that's going to be a matchup that people have to watch because it's Andy Reid, legend, versus Vic Fangio, who's a defensive legend. So that'll be interesting. So
that's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I did write Xavier Worthy against the Eagles secondary. Depending on what the Eagles do, it could be a rookie-on-rookie matchup between Quinyon Mitchell and Worthy. But, of course, the Eagles can kind of switch out their matchups and what they like on the field. But I will say something you said and kind of echo on that for anybody that's just joining us. Worthy is a one-trick pony. He's fast. And that's the best thing about him. It kind of was the best thing about Tyreek Hill for a long time, too. So it's not a knock. It's just you know how to stop him. If you can keep him and play him honestly on defense, he's not going to do a whole lot. So I'm curious to see What happens if we take Xavier Worthy out of the game? Because you and I both agree Kelsey probably had – I'd love to look at the stats for this, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think he had one of the worst statistical seasons he's had with the Chiefs that season. It just – he didn't look like himself. And I don't know if it's because he's dating Taylor Swift now. I don't know if it's because he's getting old. I don't know if it's because now he's focusing on a different part of his career, on what happens after football, instead of proving himself. Like none of these are knocks. It's just the truth. Like he's got to start thinking about what things look like in the future. So I'm curious to see what the Chiefs defense looks if you force Mahomes to give the ball to Pacheco, if you force it to give them to Kareem Hunt, if you I want to see what happens when you take away their go-to guy this season.
That is the Eagles' defense to a T. They really make you work down the field, and Mahomes has gotten a lot better at that. At one point in his career, they kind of negated Tyreek Hill, or then Tyreek went to the Dolphins, and Mahomes had to adjust. So he does have experience with that. But I would say with Xavier Worthy, I don't know if he's going to get many deep shots down the field because, again, the Eagles kind of prevent that. But we know Andy Reid is a mastermind, so I would not be surprised if they were able to get him and Kelsey involved in different ways around the line of scrimmage. The Eagles defense, while I like their game plan usually, it doesn't always work if you cannot tackle their guys, right? So if you get Worthy in space and you can't catch up to him, well, you're kind of screwed. And we've seen many times this year Xavier Worthy on reverses, on handoffs, just run by everybody. I think another matchup that I put there was Kelsey versus the Eagles linebackers. And when Dean and Bond were both in there, I mean, the best linebacker duo I've ever seen for the Eagles. I mean, this is just new. Like, what good linebacker play? I've never seen that before. But now that Dean is out, Oren Burks has done a good job, but that is where you can attack him, is in the middle of the field. So while you said Kelsey doesn't have a great year, and I agree, he's not having a great year, it is still Kelsey, and I'm sure he'll find his ways. So that's another matchup to watch out for.
Jason, I'm not an Eagles fan, but I will give you a go Birds because I think the rest of the nation is against the Chiefs. So I'm with you. Wrong Birds, but Birds nonetheless. So I'm good with it. I got to ask you one more. I almost put it in like the key matchup stuff, but we've got to talk about it. One of the things that's been consistent for anybody that's watching this just to get an idea of the Super Bowl, one thing that the NFL has talked about and fans have talked about for a while, beyond just this season, is the favoritism that appears to be leaning very heavily towards the Chiefs in some crucial and critical calls. So much so that the Union for Referees had to make a statement and say, how could we have possibly been on the Chiefs' side for all these blah, 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 blah. Like, I would have rather them have just come out and say, hey, we're just not that competent. Okay, that's fine. But to come out and you have to address it, that should tell you how bad it is and how much people agree that you're not really calling these games fairly. So we have to ask the question, how much do you think the refs will impact the game?
Well, unfortunately, they always do, for better or for worse. I do agree. I didn't think about that point where you just said that they come out and address it. Usually, I would think that if you never did anything wrong, usually you just don't address it. You just bypass it, right? So, yeah, I haven't thought about that until you said it. I'm like, okay, that is interesting. I think it's obvious that in the Bills game, there were some complete horrendous, just missed call, really, really bad.
Not just the Bills game. I'm surprised the first thing out of your mouth wasn't the ending of Super Bowl 57.
Well, that too. I just try to block that out. I haven't watched those highlights since that game. So I just try to block that out. But yeah, if you're drawing attention to it, I think it could benefit the Eagles in this way, where now that it's been mentioned by literally everybody, they're going to try very hard not to call these ticky-tacky things. And that's what they've been calling for the Chiefs, whether it's Mahomes stepping out of bounds and gets pushed, late hits, or ticky-tacky James Bradbury hold on Juju Smith-Schuster, So it is unfortunate because I think, we're all humans. We all make mistakes, and that's part of being a referee. But now that technology has advanced and improved, they can get a signal to the direct line of head refereeing and make any call that they seem fit in the situation. Because as we all know, there's usually penalties on every play. It's just how egregious is it? So like, there's an opportunity there that like you could call pretty much anything, and you might have an argument, but it's like, really, you're going to call it in that spot? For example, the lineman down the field call. If you're more than 1 yard down the field, like some games they don't call that at all, and it happens like every play on RPOs. But sometimes against the Eagles, they call it. Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay both are pretty savvy when it comes to, impeding receivers past them. So they better get their white gloves on against these white jersey Chiefs. So things like that. And we also know that in the last Super Bowl and against the Bills, probably against the Texans too, media was making its way around all the missed holding calls from the Chiefs offensive linemen. So you're going to get that in every game. I don't think it's that egregious, but they will play an impact because that's what they are. It's what they do. But it's unfortunate because these are two really good teams.
Yeah.
And I would just like to see them just call it fairly, but
it's bad enough that we notice. Like, that's what gets me. And the fact that we had to put this out right before the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the NFL is rigged. I'm saying the NFL is rigged. But, it's just really interesting timing for that to come out. But anyways, you guys know how we feel about that. We could do a whole episode on officiating if you'd like, and the progression of the worsening of football as rules change. We could do that because I'm sure Kyle and I would have a lot to say after watching football for 20 some odd years. I got to give you some interesting facts, and I want to see which ones. Yes, thank you, Ross. Yes, it is. Thank you. It is, but that's a whole nother episode. Some interesting facts, because I know some people like to know, like, hey, what's different here? What are we looking at? Kyle, you probably know this. The Eagles were the most run-heavy team in 2024. It's such a diverse and odd change from the Eagles over the past 4 or 5 years, like really since Hurts got in there. It's great because I love seeing Saquon like do his thing. It's beautiful. Saquon being back in Pennsylvania and specifically with the Eagles, he's happy. We're all happy. It's good. I'm not even a Penn State one. I'm happy. I'm like, this is what he deserves.
Yeah.
Here's one that you'll really like. Did you know Tom Brady will be a part of this game?
He's calling the game, right?
Exactly. He'll be in the booth.
Yeah,
I said to somebody at work, they were like, wait, hold up. What? I was like, yeah, he's in the booth. He works for Fox. Like he's doing the game. And
that's another interesting nugget is that he obviously, him and Mahomes have that connection of being, the GOATs. Yeah. But him and Hurts have worked together. Hurts works with Brady sometimes in the offseason, and they have a pretty good relationship. So that'll be an interesting tidbit there. So
100%. And the last one I'll give you. Actually, I'll ask you this one. I know you know everything, so this is a great question for you. What was the last Super Bowl that was played in the Superdome in New Orleans? Can you at least give me the year or the teams? I have a hint to give you, but if I give it to you, you're going to know immediately.
Yeah. Was it the Saints?
No.
Okay.
It was more of a sibling rivalry.
I feel like I just looked this up the other day. And now I already forget. I don't know. Give it to me.
2013, Ravens and 49ers. I only knew that because that's the only one that I really remember watching with the Ravens in it, because I'm not as old as never mind. But I was like, oh, that's a good one. I was going to say it was an electric game. Well, at least most of the game. And I thought that might give it to you too. All right. So you can see mine. You didn't write yours. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you my score predictions for this. It has nothing to do with the fact that you and I are best friends. It has nothing to do with the fact that I hate the Chiefs. It's just I really do feel like if this is the year the Eagles are going to do it, they are a full offensive threat to the Chiefs. I honestly think Eagles 42, Chiefs 38, a little bit of a spin on the final score of 57, because honestly, yes, the defenses are good. However, they are some high octane offenses. I fully believe they're going to come in there with some trick plays. They're going to come in there with some crafty stuff to get the ball rolling. I think it's going to be high scoring towards the end.
One more nugget before I give you the prediction.
Oh, yeah,
so Jalen Hurts, he's the first quarterback in I don't know how many years, but you can guess who the last quarterback was, that when they lost their first Super Bowl, he got back to the Super Bowl. He's the first quarterback since a legendary Buffalo Bills quarterback. You know who that is?
Oh, God. Jim Kelly?
Yeah. So he's the last quarterback since Jim Kelly, who lost their first Super Bowl and then got back to the Super Bowl. Like the last 19 quarterbacks have not done it. So Jalen Hurts is whatever you want to say about him. He's carried, or he has an ultra offense, or I don't give a crap. The dude, he wins and he got back. So that's pretty impressive. My score prediction, Eagles 35, Chiefs 13.
Hey, that's spicy. That's spicy, but I like it.
I'm going for it. So
I think nothing would make anyone more excited, especially if we don't do the Patriots-Rams game where there was like a field goal and that was
awful.
Let's not do that. So there you go. We got two Eagles predictions for a win. The Zebras will probably make sure that that's not correct, but we're gonna hope for the best opportunity here. It would be very fitting for the Eagles to end the Chiefs three-peat, just like you ended Tom Brady's career in a certain Super Bowl a couple years ago with Pastor Foles delivering the word downfield. Very much enjoyed that Super Bowl. But hey, you have the chance to do it again. Let's hope for the best. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up our episode. Thanks as always for your support. If you want to listen to us on the go, I'm going to be working on getting Blitz and Kick podcast back on Spotify. We will be with you next Wednesday night. We're going to start covering team needs leading up to the NFL draft, talk what they can do in free agency and what they should target in the draft, some guys that we like, etc. But we'll see you next Wednesday about 7:45. We haven't talked the time yet. I'm going to say 7:45 to be safe. Anyways, we'll see you real soon. Good night. Thanks for being with us.